welcome back to another episode of Discussions of Exploration with your host, Sabrina and Salmi. Today I'm joined with a very special guest, Neil. Thank you so much for joining us, and I wonder if you can introduce yourself to the listeners and the viewers.
Good afternoon, should I say, or good morning, depending what part of the world you're in. My name is Neil Pinder. I'm a product design and architecture teacher in a secondary school in South London, and I'm passionate, as you can see in some of my films, about architecture and infusing young people from non-traditional backgrounds and traditional backgrounds to get involved in the world of architecture and have a say on how their built environment, their surroundings are actually built around them for generations to come, should we say.
Wow, what an amazing introduction. Listeners, I had the privilege of connecting with Neil very recently via the power of social media. I absolutely love technology and how we can connect no matter where we are, but like-minded people can come together. So today we're going to be discussing all things architecture. In our first conversation, I was completely blown away with the extensive knowledge base, connection base. And I really love, you've got some exciting new projects coming up that you're going to share with the listeners as we organically go through the conversation. But one of the things I would love to start on this is your mindset around the education and the way we kind of support our children through that journey. I wonder if you can touch on that a little bit.
Well, my philosophy is through teaching for over 25 years, and what I've come to learn is that we are governed by people who have had exclusive rights throughout generations to the top table of education. So they've had the access to the best tutors, the best university, the best prep schools, so on and so forth, wherever they are in the world. And it's not necessarily determined by race, colour, creed. It's determined by who you're born into, where you're born into, and the level of society that you're inserted to with that sort of golden spoon, shall I say, not even silver, spoon that you're born with. Which gives you that sort of level of, should we say, in brackets, entitlement. So your entitlement is ingrained into your DNA, that you're entitled to be the Prime Minister, you're entitled to be the President, you're entitled to be the Admiral, the General, the head psychologist, the head this, the head that, so whether male or female. So it's not divided into gender, it's not divided into race, but it's divided into entitlement and the golden and the golden spoon. So in England, for example, which is it's one of the most classist societies that we have in terms of structure of how we perceive things and how we go about our daily lives in education, etc. So from a young age, students are basically told, and parents are rather told, oh, you've got to get your son or daughter or relative into this sort of establishment, because once you're in this, it will promote you to this, and etc. So if you have the money, the economical wealth, you send them to this prep school, that prep school, this boarding school, etc., etc. So you're spending £20,000-30,000 a year. So the mindset of anybody who's spending great sums of money, so the mindset of anybody who's spending money is they want something back for it. So psychologically ingrained in them is, well, I'm spending this amount of money, I expect my kids to be in these sort of jobs. So what they do, the establishment, is they create this this diversion for parents to be funneled in from all different backgrounds, to be funneled in. Oh, well, we've got to send our school here, kids to this school, we've got to move to this district, we've got to move here, there, etc. So parents are in this sort of funnel where if you're from a non-traditional background or migrant background, or should I say, and take out the word migrant and use the word settler, because, it's all about the way you use the word that empowers the person. So we're settlers here because we came here to do jobs that basically the indigenous population didn't want to, or there wasn't enough of them to do the jobs. So we came and settled here, we was invited, all the great sort of settlers around the world have done this. And so we think to assimilate into the society, we need to be educationally aware. So we follow this line. But we don't realize that all the time we've been indoctrinated and spoon-fed that we've got to do this, this, this. And when we get to this place, the goalposts suddenly change. The rules suddenly change. So we think, oh, well, we just got to go a bit further. And my parents said to me, and I'm sure your parents said to you, and the listeners' parents said to them, you know, you've got to be twice as good, because if you're not going to go in, you're not going to do this and this. But even if you're twice as good, 10 times as good, unless you make the connections with the right people, you'll still be running to stand still. You may be academically so above your scale, but because you're being born, and this is around the world, you're still being categorized in this certain sort of demographics that you're being fed. So what happens is the leaders have all been to the certain school, or they tend to come from a certain school in majority. So they go to this prep school, Eton, Oxford, Cambridge, blah, 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 blah. And so they get into power. And in their DNA is protectionism. So they think up of all of these ways that they can actually protect and safeguard their positions. So they come up with something, for example, now, Progress 8. Progress 8 focus on the core subjects: English, double English, maths, triple science, an EBAC, which could be a language and humanities, geography, or history, in that order. So it's to the total exclusion, if you look at it, of the creative subjects. So you're saying to yourself, why are the creative subjects, if you step back and say, why are the creative subjects being excluded from this, these subjects or this area? Why did they include the creative subjects? And then you look at the creative subjects. Creativity in any part of the world allows people to become independent thinkers. Thinkers outside of this box. Thinkers are outside of the matrix. So in any society, you look in the slave days, you look in England, there was a book by a guy and which was really influential in my life when I was at school, Chicken Soup and Barley, written by Harold Pinter. And it was about how Jewish families basically got together and everything was around food. They were discussing it. Now, I'm drawing a parallel because food technology has been taken out. It's become an added extra. A lot of schools in England, up and down the country, have taken food off the curriculum. Although you see all of these food programs, they've taken it out of the curriculum because it's expensive. It's very, very expensive to maintain the cookers, have the infrastructure, food technology, but yet still, Chicken Soup and Barley said that through coming together, eating together around the table, or the process of making food, etc., you have discussion. You're able to free your thought from the matrix. So this is why the creative subjects, drama, technology, music, all of these subjects becoming added on. And so what, not only do they become added on, they also become part exclusive, because it's only the people who can afford the music lessons, the food lessons, the drama lessons. And where do those people tend to majority come from again? The economically, socially mobile people who can understand and play the game and play the rules of the game, but try and move on up to a certain sort of goal that they perceive as the I've arrived or I'm nearly there sort of goal. But they don't realize all the time that goal's been shifted, because the people at the top table may let, and I'll use the word, the very strong word, let you, bam, the door's got to close, too many. And then the people in that room tend to, be of the same sort of mindset as the people in the room. So there's not much variation. Don't matter where they came from. There's not much freshness being brought into the room in terms of thinking outside the box.
You know, I love every aspect of what you've just shared, and there's a couple of pointers that you've shared that I really want the listeners to tie into. I think there's so much talk around the privilege, but people tend to go down the route of, oh, it's where they come from, it's white supremacy. Well, I say, well, actually, I love the fact that you've taken that out. It's not, it's actually who's paying for it, because everyone from all walks of life are there. It's all about a certain mindset and people that have paid for their seat around the table. And I really love that you pointed that out, because sometimes we can be fooled by this very negative derogatory term of it's okay for them because this. No, actually, if you're in a certain position, you will be privy to this, and your child will have this as access. And I love what you said. And I love the book. I'm definitely going to read that book. I love books. And I love the book you shared, because I really agree that so much takes place around the table. And definitely when I embarked on my personal journey to build myself and my children, what I did realize is that people don't do business in the way that people feel. It's not always full. It is literally, you come over to my house, I come over to yours, because what they're doing is this immersive experience, and they're learning by osmosis. They're having chats. I remember when I used to go to a lot of meetings, obviously we're at home at the moment, but it was a case, let's meet for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And that was the environment that ideas were formed. That's the exchange. And I couldn't help but feel very daunted by what you shared with regards to children not having access to the creative side of themselves, because it's just a case of you read, you remember, you regurgitate. It's not like, don't deviate. Don't even dare add anything to it, because you are here for a purpose and you're just being churned through somewhat of a conveyor belt so you can then slot into a box. And that's quite alarming, because the creativity that comes out of children is absolutely astounding. I know that you're a parent, and you only need to speak to a 5-year-old to see that they're oozing with ideas. They can't wait to say, how do you figure this out? And they can solve the biggest problems in the world. You know, if we had them in power, we'll be fine.
But the beautiful thing about kids, and I've worked with kids all my life, or with the younger generation all my life. So I started off by doing youth work when I was in my teens, late teens, and my local youth centre. So I grew up in a council estate on Wandsworth Road, the Patmore estate. Fantastic piece of architecture looking back on it. Not that you'd necessarily think so now, but I grew up and I worked in the Patmore Youth Centre, and I loved working with the kids. I used to, and it evolved. I went to art school, and from there I used to do art classes. And when you do art classes with kids, their imagination is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, because they've got no boundaries. They've got no one saying to them, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't. There's not such a word as can't. Whatever they imagine, they do. They can say. So you can get poetry, music, the drama, art, whatever visualization you want to do. Kids can do it, but they haven't got any sort of preconceived ideas, or they're not guided by the formalities of what the adult is driven by. And there's nothing better than a young person asking questions, and they're out somewhere with their parents, and the parents obviously, and as a parent, you always have those cringe moments, and they'll ask a question, and the adults, you know, are cringing, but the kids are thinking, you know, it's just, I want to know this answer, because this is bugging me. What is the answer? And that's how we learn, you know. But as you grow older, you're told, oh, you don't say this here, you don't do this there, and you start to be, you know, a bit more formalised in your approach. Obviously, there's certain sort of formalities that you do have to follow. But if you see the innocence of kids, it's absolutely amazing and fantastic. And that's where, if I just quickly tell you about the architectural workshops we do with primary schools, secondary schools. So through my work, I've started something called Celebrating Architecture. And I remember years ago, this fantastic woman called Victoria Thornton, she was the head of London Open House. So London Open House, every year around September, they open up the doors to about 500 different historical, architectural buildings and aesthetical value buildings. And so the public are allowed to go and see them. So you can go to the Gherkin, the Bank of England, the Cheese Grater. You can go to architects' houses that they've built. So there's this photographer, I think in East London somewhere, and he's got a house called the Sunken House, designed by David Adjaye. So what happened is the architect, the photographer didn't have loads of money. He was good friends with David Adjaye, as the story goes. And so David wanted pictures taken and work done. So he said they did a trade-off, which is brilliant, swapping skills. So David designed this Sunken House, absolutely amazing. So there's so many different sort of exposés that kids were open to when I started to get involved in this. And as I said, Victoria Thornton, she just did one of these fish catching emails to the school, and it landed with me. And I was teaching technology in this girls' school in Tulse Hill, St Martin's in the Field, with this inspirational head called Leslie Morrison, who basically gave me carte blanche to do what I can do. Because I went there, the grades were 19% in this girls' school for technology, A to C. And when I left, and I had architects that I managed to enthuse there, the grades were over 90% A to C. So, I'd done my job, sort of thing. But Victoria Thornton sent out this email saying, we can tie up or pair architects with kids who are doing product design. So I took it up, and then from there on, everything just started to, in my mind, because I always wanted to be an architect, but I followed my passion in going to art school and focusing on sculpture and three-dimensional design. But I always wanted to be an architect. And then this opportunity came, and then from there on, everything just snowballed. And now we have Celebrating Architecture. And we've just launched a program today with London, with Open City, which is called Junkarchitecture. So it's about getting all the waste and it's for families, this one, getting all of the recycled stuff out in the recycle bin and turning into London skylines. And I've got some brilliant people working with me, the exceptional Venetia Wolfenden. Venetia is an academic, she's an architect, she's an amazing person, and literally she's unbelievable if you ever meet her, and she's got so much energy. She thinks outside the box. And then I've got one of my architecture alumni, a young lady called Caitlin, who's doing her master's at Central St Martin's. She is, we've done projects together, and she's amazing again. And we've got another young guy called James who's doing his master's at Central St Martin's, and we've crunched this together with this young man called Finn Harper from Open City. He's just taken up the mantle of Open City's job, which is a humongous task. But he basically he gave me my first real big break in terms of delivering architecture with the Architectural Foundation and the Royal College of Art. So we're based there as well. And Finn is, if you want somebody who thinks outside the box, I'm surrounded by creative people who the synergies are, you're creative, let's get it on. Whatever you want to think about, you can do. And the people can articulate it in the words and the drawings and the animations, etc., etc. And our team is just absolutely brilliant. So yes, we're launching this Junkarchitecture today on the Open City website, Open City, and it will be amazing because it's literally designed for families in lockdown.
Wow.
So that is one of the things that we're doing. I think I've deviated off the point, but
No, absolutely not. Firstly, thank you and congratulations. Listeners, I will ensure that I get a link from Neil so you can check out this exciting new project. I said to Neil, obviously we're going to jump online, but as soon as we can get out, we're going to be swarming these opportunities to actually see the architecture in some of these buildings. Neil, I loved the way you effortlessly navigated through your childhood, teenage years, your passion for architecture, and then how that coupled and intertwined with the people that you met, and how it started to organically expand into an array of opportunities. And I really love that as children, if they are supported, if they are immersed into certain environments, that they will learn to really embody who they are, what they love, but also it will naturally bring them opportunities. I really love that. And mentioning the key people that showed up for you and gave you those breaks, you know, gave you those unique opportunities. It's remarkable. What would you say are some of the things that parents can do with regards to supporting their children? So I get this question a lot, you know, how do we get children into certain opportunities? What would be, if for instance, I know a young man, he's a teenager actually, and he does want to become an architect, so I'm definitely going to put this in front of him, and I'd love to connect you up. What would you say is a nice starting point for someone that doesn't have any connections in the industry? What would be a nice starting point?
Apart from connecting to me.
I love that.
Let me think. Basically, it's very difficult. It is very difficult. I mean, I'm in a fortunate position, and I know architectural practices, and there's one architect. Well, there's more than one. I have loads, but I'm going to mention them because they deserve a big prop. People like Paul Karakusevich or Karakusas. Paul is an amazing guy who basically allows my all of my ideas and the connections I've got to go through as well. We've made a film with him, and I'll send you the link to the film. And what we do with Paul is we link in where I take young people to his practice. And you've got to understand is he understands because he comes from a relatively non-traditional background. So he gets it. And so he's got to where he's got to. So now he opens up the doors for other people. He's on the trustee, like myself, on the trustees of the Stephen Lawrence Trust. He's a trustee. And he basically, I put another idea to him. I said, look, I've got this initiative called Home Plus. So I've got another initiative called Homegrown Plus. And what it is Homegrown Plus is my alumni group where all of the kids that I've worked with who have become architects, they're part ones, part twos, they come, and what we do is we feed each other and they connect to other people. So as I said to you, this young lady called Caitlin Latimer Jones, she was traveling around the world, and I helped her to get into accelerate into architecture program that we did. Anyway, she's traveling around the world, and then she just texted me and she said, look, Mr. Pinder, I'm available because I'm not going to uni. Is there anything you want me to do? I said, yeah, well, I've got this idea. It's called Homegrown Plus 1 hour. And she said, yeah. And she is so enthusiastic. So we sat down and she put it, because I don't write like an architect. I can't write like an architect. I think like a teacher, but I can't write like an architect. So that's why I have brilliant architects and people who are enthusiastic around me about architecture, who know the language of architecture. So we sat there and we worked out this program. Then we went into, it's called Pod Living, Homegrown Plus 1 hour. So we go into architectural practices for 1 hour with a theme based on pod living. And we made up these models where the students, and it's only about 6 students at a time, they have to design a house, a little pod, a flat or whatever, based on the Hayward Gallery and about 2 other buildings, Peckham Heights. So we take these models, they choose what they want to do, and then they start designing with the architects of the specific practice we go to. So Paul Karakusevich Carson allowed us to be one of the first to do it. So we've done it with Sarah Wigglesworth, who's amazing again. We've done it with this group called Public Practice, who literally, you know, as I keep saying, amazing, and I don't want to, I can't use the word enough. And another group of people called Assemble. So we've done it before, we've piloted it, it works. So what I do is set these up, and then I get my alumni groups or my alumni to start running them afterwards. And that's how we're setting about doing the program. So if young people connect to me, they connect to me, and then we can introduce them to these architectural practices. Because one of the major things is if you come from a non-traditional background, you go into an architectural practice, number one, don't matter if you're a first year architect, the language they use, the surroundings, etc., etc., they're quite intimidating. So if you do one of these, you get a feel of it. And it's not, I mean, it's like, I imagine it's every day, you know, every day is like the first day of when I went to art school. When I went to art school, I was the only black guy in my year. And I went there, and I remember phoning my girlfriend and saying, wow, what do I do? You know, there's all these people who know everything because they've been entitled to everything, you see? And so when you go into an architectural practice, you think, wow, there's all these people who know everything. And so because I felt that, I try and alleviate that for them in things like Homegrown Plus 1 hour.
Wow.
You know, and we're also, and so I do quite a lot of collaboration. So another one of my passions is I've got a young lady called Navida who teaches in a special needs school and dyslexic kids. And so I was at a talk last year where I was doing a presentation. She came up after me and she said, look, I've got some dyslexic kids who would like to get involved in architecture. So I said to her, let's get together and talk. So I put her and Caitlin together. She teaches dyslexia, and Caitlin knows the words of architecture. Put those two together, and now we're doing a program when we get chance called autism and dyslexia into architecture. You see, so it's about connecting with people, and then from there, moving forward. So we have all of these connections, and it's about connections. That's what I would say in relation to getting straight to the point. It's about connections. How do you connect with people? I'm not at the top table. I'm nowhere near off the top table, but we're a stepping stone to where you want to go. And we're just a connective to where you would like to go. And then once you may come through us, you may learn some of the pros and the cons and everything else. Yeah.
You know, I think it's absolutely amazing what you touched on. Firstly, thank you for sharing all those golden nuggets. Listeners, I really urge you to pause this, rewind it, listen to it again, because there's so much that's being shared that you can really learn from. I love something that you keep talking about, being around the table, speaking, connection, who do you know, relationship, rapport, communication. And listeners, if you've not picked up on this already, me personally as a mother, that's my parenting style, because I feel that these are the transferable skills, they're life skills that our children need. Mm-hmm. I think that this is what we really need to cherish more than the promise note that we pull out of our purses and wallets, because I feel that this is the thing that's everlasting. If you become an investor in people, when you build relationships from a position of integrity and you actually value, like I can see that like you've got me tearing up, I've got my tissue, like I can see the pattern that comes out of you when you're actually talking about this aspect. And I get it, because it's like, I grew up in the council estate, and it's like you grow up one place and you go, well, how do you get there? Because the truth is, we're not all going to know these people instantly, but thanks to Neil, now you've got a connecting factor. But it's like, how do I go on that journey? First, authenticity. I think if we go into an essence of authenticity, who am I? Where am I going? And if you can maintain that level of authenticity, integrity, respect, honesty, I feel that I really feel that we can equip our children in the journey of life to actually get where they're going. Because one of the troubles is that if you don't treat people correctly, they won't hang around for a while. If you can be in the greatest opportunity, you can have all the money in the world, but you can't pay for that person to stay in your life. So I love,
exactly,
like, keep repeating, like, the connections, who supported you, you know, having those long-lasting relationships. And as a result of you nurturing that relationship, it's a two-way, and respecting, you're able to open up the vessel for other people to benefit. I'm just feeling that you've got something you wanted to add there, Neil. I could see you stirring up.
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head, and extrapolated all of the things that I've said, and concise them, which is fantastic. And one of the things that I teach my kids, every lesson I teach, every lesson I have, I end it with a karma. I do yoga, and I believe in karma. And so I play music all in my lessons. So every kid who comes to my lessons, I play from jazz to not a little bit of rock, pop, etc. Every sort of music that I play in my lesson, and into yoga music, classical music. So all through the lesson, they hear music. And I say to them, if I can't hear my music, that means you're talking too loud. So, and I don't have my music loud, but, and you can see the kids interacting, and the music and everything else. And at the end of it, we just do a little mantra. And so I say to them, and I say to my form group, it's about your soul, and it's about souls connecting. And it's about not getting to where you think you've got to, and use somebody as a stepping stone to get them. Because there's a saying, the people you meet up on the way up are the same people you meet on the way down. And if you're on the way down and your soul haven't been kind to them, it takes a big soul to be kind to you as you're falling. So what you have to do is, and this is why we spread, and all my alumni, the people I've taught, I say to them, the bottom line is, I connect you to you, you connect to so-and-so, but you maintain those connections. And don't get so embroiled in a sort and head down thinking, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, the boss says this, the boss said that. Just sometimes raise your head up and just look around and connect to somebody. And that's where we will move on, is through connections and having souls meet. And obviously, I'm talking utopia. And there are those sort of mercenaries out there that would use you to get where they want to. But everybody knows who they are. They're visible. So, and they're obvious. So everybody says, yeah, we know you're going to go to the top. Yeah, we'll let you go to the top. But in the meantime, we've got this nice, surreal karma of intertwined souls who are helping each other in need and help, and they can ring each other up. So I've also got a mentoring program that I've developed over the years, where a student will, so I've got, for example, I've got one of my young guys last year, he's in the Bartlett School of Architecture, first year student. So I connected to this young lady called Rosie Murphy. And so Rosie Murphy was at the Bartlett. So I connected, I said, look, Rosie, keep an eye out, talk with him. If he wants anything, his name's Rafi, and if he wants anything, connect with him. And I've also got the same thing at Portsmouth University, Oxford Brookes University. I've got the same thing going on at Cambridge University. Up and down the country in the different universities, I've got different students, whether they're first year helping a second year helping a first year, etc. They're all interconnected, and they all realize the benefit and the power of staying connected. And that's what you have to, I think, build up for people to appreciate that is the essence.
I absolutely love that, what you've just shared. And I think that it's very intrinsic that state schools don't always teach that. And hearing you being at school and playing your music and connecting with your students at that level, that made my hairs stand up, literally, because I was thinking, I wish I had a teacher like you. Because imagine if teachers went into school, and everyone's there for the different reasons. I totally understand that. But when you have a teacher that's engaged at the level that you are, that comes to work with the level of passion and desire that you do, for me, that's the difference that makes the difference. That's what transforms the lives of many children for generations to come, because that's a different level of teaching. It's not, the clock goes and I'm here for an hour with you and we've got to get this done. It's that connective factor. And what I really believe that whatever we input into our children goes on to stay with them long after school. Like, I remember the teachers in school that said to me, you wouldn't amount to anything. And I remember that one teacher that told me, Sabrina, you can make it. And sometimes we underestimate what it means, just that one teacher to believe in you. It's the difference that changes everything. So I really thank you for all of your hard work. Again, I like the way you're utilizing the whole premise of it takes a village. It's about family, connectiveness. It's how that second year somewhat pays it forward to the first year. Like, I know I was there, I've walked that journey. If you do this, if you implement this, if you interject this, and by the way, I'm here if you need me. I cannot echo that enough, because this is what I speak to people all day long, is that once you have someone in your life that can hold your hand, that can help you to navigate the space, that's the difference that makes the difference. And it's interesting, because I was speaking to a Dr. I recently, and she talks about something very similar to you, that in order to secure someone's success, only 10% is actually directed to their academics. 10%. But children are depressed, anxious, they're stressed out to actually get that attainment in academics. But then 20% is connected to socializing. Who do they socialize? Who are they around? And a whopping 70% is connected to exactly what you're talking about: the mentors, the introductions, building those relationships. So listeners, I really urge you to take notes, take heed. And again, I'm a true believer that, when people say knowledge is power, I beg to differ unless you add the key ingredients. Knowledge is power when you take action. You see, you can sit here and watch us, you can sit here and listen to us, but unless you implement what's being shared by Neil into your own life, it will only ever be knowledge. But in order to implement, get in touch with Neil. In order to implement, take the key steps and start implementing into your life and that of your children. I love every aspect that you shared, and I really thank you. I wonder what you feel about, what did you have to unlearn in your journey to actually get to where you are? Because I'm very intrigued by your mindset, if I'm being entirely honest. I love the way you piece things together.
Could you just say that again?
Sure. What do you feel that you had to unlearn in your journey in order to become who you are today? Like an example, just like maybe mindset, or I can't do that, or perhaps what were the sort of things you had to just dispose of, realizing that you were getting in your own way?
Right. The reason why I made you reiterate the question again is because I don't think I had a lot to unlearn, and I'm not being arrogant now. I think that what's happened is the journey of my life has made me learn. So I've rephrased it a bit differently, but it's the journey that I've had that has helped me to become the person I am. So I went to Battersea County School, and I had two inspirational teachers. My music teacher, Michael Bailey, I remember him, and I'll tell you a little story about him if we've got enough time. And my art teacher, who basically saw the potential in me and about art. He was the principal art director at the Questus Theatre in Hammersmith. So he was a quite nice tablet, but the way he made art seem was effortlessly. And my music teacher, because I played music as well, he infused us to play jazz, classical music. So he said, so with me, my brother, my friends, so we won scholarships to attend music school. I played the trombone. And so, we had two really inspirational teachers. I mean, it could never happen now. And I hope they're still alive, but they were so inspirational in my life, my friend's life, my wife's life, everybody else's life that I know. I mean, they used to collect us on the morning as we was going to school. There was two of them, the art teacher and geography teacher. They were driving to school. They'd see us, they'd collect us and drive us into school. That can never happen now. You know, that innocence is lost. And I remember one year, our music teacher said, come and paint my house. So a group of us stayed out of his house in Bromley. He was really posh. And what he did is every night we'd sit down at the table and have dinner, us guys. And his wife was a barrister. She would cook the dinner, leave it in the morning, and he sat us down. And it can never happen now because, you know, everybody sees different things they see the badness. But these people were good. They were so good. And so fast forwarding, what happened is, what changed my whole attitude to life was I nearly died in a car crash. And when you get near to death, then you realise this or that. I thought to myself, you know, if the car I was going down a one-way street, the car came out from the side road, didn't see me, my car span, I landed about a millimetre away from a lamppost, you know, on another day, what could have happened? But from then I say to my students, and this is started then, live each day like the first and spend it like the last. So if this was your first day on earth and you landed, you'd just be so inquisitive about everything. And if it was your last day on earth, you'd want to try and willing to do everything you possibly can. So, but you're not reckless. That's the caveat. You're not being reckless. And then I became a DJ. You know, I had a chance to go down to, I used to DJ, and I had a chance to go, I used to work on the King's Road, and I used to meet loads of people on a Saturday. I used to work in a trendy clothes shop on Saturday down the King's Road. And then we used to go and have a little drink in a cocktail bar and spend all our money that we worked on Saturdays. And then I used to DJ across the road on the King's Road on Saturday night. So all my friends came. And when you DJ and you're meeting people, you get to meet everybody, and or you know, that possibly you can do in a life, and you experience different people's emotions. And so you're on this journey, and this is where it all comes together. You meet arty people, you know, the more financial, this person, that person, and then you just extract what your soul wants. And then you move on. And then all I try to do in teaching, this is why I play music. And they all know, sometimes I do, at lunchtimes I've got this little app called DJ. And I play some music and I DJ for them at lunchtimes, on Friday lunchtime. So we do a little mix, and they all come sit down in my technology room, do a little mix and stuff like that. And when I'm doing a workshop, sometimes I do a little mix for them. So it's a culmination of all of these things that's happened in my life before that plays a big part in my life now. And you could see that people or kids love the sort of fact that, you know, you're out the box. They love, but you still have your, you know, I still make them please, thank you, and teach them the basics. But off of the basics, you can vary.
Wow, you shared so much there, and I really love, listeners, I urge you to just digest, take apart, and take from it what resonates with you, because what I really love about you, and you took me, it's so, I'll be honest with you, it's so hard to actually speak to you because you're taking me off to different thought process by what you're speaking about. One of the things that really touched me is the relationship that you had with your teachers. And I'm 40 now, and I can honestly say I totally agree that I don't see, well, apart from what you do in school, I don't see the level of connectivity in schools today like we had when we were growing up. You're quite right. There was this after school. I remember being in love with my teacher. I loved her so much. I remember running to school in the morning and she would hug me. And those times where school felt like community. Our community felt like community. And when you were speaking, I was just thinking to myself, That's where the connecting factor comes in. And then you bring in music. Now, music surpasses language. Smiling and connecting and looking at a fellow human is that we connect at a level that surpasses, I don't care if you can't speak Japanese, if I speak French, we just connect and express ourselves through smile and communication of the body and things that's unspoken. And as you were talking, you were taking me off on all these different tangents. And I feel that this is what is missing. Because when you remove art from school, we think it's just that first front, can I draw? But actually, we're talking about the human expression. You know, I read a book once, Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God, and he was talking about that language is not the first form of communication for the soul. And what if, when we're talking about art, what if when we're talking about music, what if when we're talking about art, technology and design, we're going into the unspoken parts of us. So I can't thank you enough for actually sharing what you did with me, because that really sparked me. I had some questions, they literally went out of my head. You've taken me on a tangent, because this is very deep. Sometimes we can't see past our noses. Is that if we get to the fact that if we had our parents, wouldn't it be amazing if we can facilitate our children's development by teaching them to think, by teaching them to be expressive? And we have like stencil writing on our walls. And one of the ones that we have is dance like no one's watching and sing like no one can hear.
Yeah.
And it's
I've
that's what was going through my mind as you were talking, is that art is that expression. It's like, if I paint and keep looking at, Neil, do you like this? Do you like this? That's not the artistic flow. It's when I get into my artistic flow and the canvas is blank. So somewhat like if life is the canvas and I am the artist, don't worry about who's watching. Continue to just marvel in your artistry. And as passers-by will gather, you're unaware that they're there, because you're so immersed in that connection. And when I talk to you, your passion oozes out just like that. It's not a case you're speaking things. When we spoke, it's not a case that you're saying these things to see, oh, I wonder how that's going to land. You just share with such an exquisiteness of passion and integrity, and it's invigorating, and people just want to be a part of that. So I'm not surprised that you're surrounded by all these amazing connecting factors that can really transform the lives of our children. So I just want to thank you as a parent, as a friend in your life. Just really, really thank you for what you're doing and what you're creating, but also how you're spreading this message that is definitely going to go out and create some ripple effects of love. Thank you.
Can I just say that one of the things is the reason why we're where we are is innocence has been lost. I mean, there's certain things that have to be done because of child protection, and I've got DBS because he used to be a rugby coach, he used to do football, blah, 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 blah. And I've been checked, and it needs to be done. But through that, there's so much, in theory, you can't put your hand on a kid's shoulder anymore. And kids, when you're teaching them football, they run up and cuddle you if you show them a skill. So we've lost that innocence, and on the other part, kids are driven by levels. You spoke about you can't just say that is right, that is wrong, that is wrong. Kids are always, because everything is graded, assessed. Kids are scared to do anything wrong. They're scared and they're scared of failure. They are scared to be told you're a failure. But what they've got to realize, when you fail, you succeed, because you can't go through life not failing. It's impossible. So, I'll draw an instance. When a kid does a drawing, and it's a really fantastic drawing in terms of they think it's fantastic, and you say to them, well, you've done this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. You could see them just sink. So how do you get them to learn about perspective? You say to them, well, maybe if you do it at this angle, you might be able to see this side of the box, or this side of the tree, or this side of the building, and then they think, yeah, but you haven't deflated them and told them that this is wrong. And whereas when you do SATs, when you levels and everything else, the levels you give the kid tells them whether they're succeeding or failing. So we're getting so many young people now who they have all of the nervous dispositions due to the fact that throughout their life they've been told you're failed. And only that small percentage are told, yeah, you're a level whatever, or you're a level, above your level. Da, 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 da. But the rest of them, they've been told they're failures. And so, as an adult, if somebody says to you you're a failure as an adult, you think about how you feel inside. You feel absolutely distraught. And then the next time you go to do the exercise, you're a bit hesitant at doing it, because you think to yourself, I might be a failure and I don't want to fail. So creativity allows us to fail in real terms, in terms of use is the stereotypical word fail, but we're not really failing, we're learning and we're growing.
I agree.
And that's what we need to say. It's all right, don't worry. You can do it and do it and do it as much as you want, and whatever you feel is good, but as long as you're teaching them to build on what they're doing.
Exactly. Do you know, I'm so glad you actually touched on this. I think when we're discussing the essence of children, this is so important. I think the discussion would be only half fulfilled if we didn't go here. And as you were talking, I was thinking about my own personal experience, and listeners, you can tie this into yourself. So I've got 5 children, and I can absolutely remember and agree with you that when one of my daughters, my second daughter, came home, and she's 12 now, but this was a few years back, so she was doing her SATs. And I remember her specifically saying, will you love me? She just came from school, and I thought, what do you mean, will I love you? She goes, will you still love me? And she had all this dialogue exchange with her at school, to the point, exactly with what you're saying, that she believed that if she didn't pass her test, she would not be loved. And I was very speechless. I had to say, what is it you're talking about? I had to really delve, because it took a while to get it out of her. But she had made this connection between loving and being valued to the grades that she gets at school. And it was so interesting, because we've never been a family that's like that. But what I realized is that it's not so much what we do at home, it's what they go into outside as well. So we had this conversation, and she talked to us about this briefing that they have at school and what it means if they don't pass. And I just went, wow. When a child, I'm thinking my child felt that she could express herself. So what about children who do not? And that was exactly, there's so much things going on in my mind. But it gave us a really nice opportunity to have a family meeting. And one of the things that I said to my children was, you're not your grades. You are not your grades. It's like who you are today and who you are tomorrow cannot be fine-tuned to what grades you got. It's all about how good of a person you want to show up, your intentions. That essence can't be graded by any school on any paper in an hour. But it's so damaging with what you said, that she actually believed that she would lose the love from her family if she didn't pass. And she jumped up, full of beans afterwards, knowing that she will be loved. But again, listeners, exactly like what Neil's saying, it's about wording, it's about dialogue, and just reaffirming. So in our house, what I realize is that my children actually perform better because they realize they are not their grades. They do it. I say, you know what, in the exam, do your best. The ones you don't know, come home, we'll do some research. And they're like, brilliant. And they're coming out of exams, and their friends say, why are you not stressed out? Because they're not going to get in trouble for getting it wrong. Because exactly what you said, there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. And feedback is, I don't know what that is. Let me go and check it out. And that's lifelong learning. I really, really love that. And listeners, I hope you take away that golden nugget, because I think that's a big difference. Because when we teach men that they are the salary they bring home, when we teach women that you have to be a perfect mum or you're no good, and when we teach children that if you don't get an A star, you're not worthy of love, we've got to think about the lines of communication that's going on there.
Definitely. It's not an A star anymore, it's a 9.
Oh yeah, that's right. Actually, yeah, that's actually a good point. Well, it goes to show how much I pay attention to it. But that's exactly it. For me, I celebrate the kids when they're doing well, and when they get feedback, I celebrate them also, because at the end of the day, they are not their grades. But Neil, I want to thank you.
Can I just leave you with one caveat? Right? So
Do you know, I love
when
the
you
way your
said
eyes
to,
start
we
to
was
twinkle when
talking,
you start smiling.
and is the kids think I'm a joker, right? But I could get loads of out of them because I think I'm a joker. And I remember this, and we have fantastic kids from all over the world. So this one girl, she was from Somalia, and she basically, I looked at her drawings one day and I said, "Cool, your anime drawings are absolutely brilliant." She said, "Yeah, and I can speak Japanese." And I
What?
said, "Wow, yeah, yeah." I said, "Wow." I said to her, "How come?" She said, "Because I've watched the movies." Obviously, she must have watched it. Anyway, so I said to her, "Look, I'm going to take you to our Japanese teacher and do a test, just see if you're good." So I took her to him, and she spoke Japanese, and he said, "Yeah, she's really, really good." And so the next couple of lessons down the road, she said to me, and this was in front of the whole class of about 30 kids, and I had my sixth formers who know that I'm a joker, and so they're at the back, they're doing their work on the computers, and I've got my class in front of me, and she said to me, "Mr. Pinder, I've got something to tell you." And I said to her, "Hold on, tell me in Japanese." Right? And she told me in Japanese. And so by now, all my sixth formers at the end who are doing their work are listening and looking at me and thinking, "What is he on about?" And I said, you forgot your book at home, which means that you haven't got your homework, and you think that you might be in trouble. No, everything's all right. And because this group were about 12-year-olds, and this is the innocence of them. No, they were year 7, so they were 11, 12. So they're all thinking, they're looking at me and thinking, "Wow!" And one of them said, "Wow, Mr. Pinder can speak Japanese." and,
I love it.
and, and, and you heard all of the year 12 and 13 going, "Yeah, right." Obviously, it wasn't quite like that,
Oh
but
my
yeah,
God.
literally. But this is the thing, these are the things you got to do so that, they feel relaxed and they can work and they can, do whatever they want in terms of what you want them to do and learn at the same time. But it's fun. It is fun.
But look at what you
That is the
seeded
main thing.
collectively, the fun, but also the confidence that you seeded in this young lady to share.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
remarkable,
Yeah.
absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
So thank you for being a joker and keep that up.
Yeah.
What I would love you to do with the listeners, so I know that the listeners are going to be as eager as I am to share some information as to how they can hear about your amazing projects and things that you're doing. How can they connect with you?
LinkedIn.
Okay.
LinkedIn. I mean, that is one of the best ways to connect to me, through LinkedIn. And literally, I try and answer every single. Well, I do. I answer everyone back that gets in contact with me, LinkedIn, and then I can email them. And now I can, hopefully, after later on today, I'll be able to send them to this Open City site where they can download the family activity for junk architecture, and move on from and stay connected to me and see all the programs we're doing and watch this space, because we have loads. I mean, we're doing collaborations. Well, if it wasn't for this specific period, but you've got to look on the positive, I connected to you.
Oh yes,
and we got time now. But we're working with the Victorian Albert Museum. We make architectural films. We're supported by the GLA, and we've got a host of architectural practices, Urban Project Bureau, and many more. We've got fantastic architects who support us. David Okomarumu, he's absolutely amazing. He mentors one of my students down in Portsmouth, and we've got Oxford books. I've got a woman called Professor called Maria Feroza and Matt Gaskins down in Oxford books. So they tell me, you say to me where you are, and then hopefully we'll be able to connect to you if you want to do architecture, you're thinking doing architecture with a project, or come on board and help us with initiative when we get out of this lockdown period. So there's so many different things that you can get involved with us with. And we've got another one called GLAM, and I thought of this, and this is how you engage young people. It's called GLAM because it's called Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Architecture and Me. And it's about human architecture. And we're getting young people to do workshops involved in making. So, and that's supported by Elliot Wood, the Building Society. So there's so many different aspects of, architecture. If you want to get into Formula One, I've got a guy at HOK who basically all he does is design Formula One tracks, and literally we've got architects who do specifically, and they're amazing, these architects, and the ones I get involved in want to spread their knowledge, and that's what they do. Some are involved. I've got another mate who designs football stadiums at Poplars, Charles Cook. He designed Arsenal football stadium because I'm a gooner, so I love him. And, so you got all of these art. Literally, there's so many of them who do and want to get involved and who get involved in our project. So, yeah, let's get it on.
Listeners, viewers, it is certainly exciting times ahead. I cannot wait for my family and I to come and join you. We'll be online for now, but we're going to become running out of our house as soon as we get the word. This is absolutely invigorating. And what I love is that you attract like-minded people that want to pay it forward. So there's no scarcity mindset. It's that actually I'm here and I want to be a catalyst and a vessel for someone else to come on board. And I really honor you and your community, the network of people that are around you, because this is the difference that makes the difference. When someone's willing to say, hi, come and spend some time with me, come and get some help from me, that's the difference that makes a difference. And listeners, I really urge you that if you're not already, because I know that some people are so kind, if you're not already, take a leaf out of Neil's box, really think about how do you show up in the world? Are you really implementing the ethos? Now, we don't have to do the big changes. We don't have to help the entire world, but just your 1%. Think about from my position, from my current stance, what can I do for someone that I know? It doesn't always have to be a young person, because sometimes it's someone that that just needs a helping hand, a touch on the shoulder to say, are you okay? Especially now, so many people have lost their jobs, so many people are in despair and paralyzed. Some people are still in shock. Now, the essence is, I love the way the ethos of how Neil and his network activate is that I'm here to help. I'm happy to help. Let's do this. Let me know what's going on. Let me know I can show up. So for me, thank you so much. Neil, is there a final message that you'd like to leave with the listeners? As I really love what you're sharing. And is there anything that comes to mind?
The final message, I leave with all my class, and I could get you to do it as well.
Okay.
Put your palms together. Right, palms to heart for actions of peace. Palms to lips for words of truth. Palms to head for thoughts, peace, love, and happiness. The inner soul honors and recognizes and sees the glowing, beautiful inner light in you. Have a fantastic day in life. Namaste.
Namaste. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, listeners.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
And connecting.